officially started to count down. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Curbside Podcast. I am your host, Jake Kirby, the monster-fueled madman. Here along, as always, my master of the macabre, my lovely co-host, Scream Queen B.
Hi, guys. Happy days. Jay, I gotta tell you, I don't know how you humans do it. You work 5 days a week, sometimes 6, and only have that one day off to really just kind of shed your skin, stretch your wings out, and take care of all the things you humans have to do.
It's
how do you
called
do
caffeine.
it? I know.
Caffeine is mostly the one that gets me through everything.
I know, and I've been partaking of said caffeine for a very long time. And now it just does not feel like it gives me that same boost anymore.
That's because you're starting to get used to it.
I don't like it. So, Jay, how is your knee doing this week?
It is a little sore, a little stiff, but it is slowly getting better.
Good. That's good to hear. I know I've been checking up on you. I don't know if you've heard any voices in the drains lately.
Is that what that sound was?
No,
I just heard gurgle gurgle glub.
Yeah, that was us.
Okay.
I sometimes I get so busy having to take care of my own issues, I send my minions out to do my other work. But at least I send the best after you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Of course. I mean, what kind of co-host would I be? Not a very good one.
No. I would have to agree with you there. So, since you're, the master of the macabre, the dark and evil one of this podcast, and I'm the little ray of caffeinated sunshine, I have to ask.
Of course.
What do you know about dark, gritty reboots?
They can go one of two ways. Either they could be done so masterfully that people argue that, oh, it's better than the original one, if not equal to the original, or it could go a completely different direction and be a complete shit show. Because some people have visions and they either try too hard to make those visions a reality, not being flexible enough to kind of give into like either a schedule or give into an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Not proper casting choices for certain roles. That's like with any reboot, though. There's so many things that can go right or can go completely wrong. Now, what do you know? What do you know about remakes?
I know that there is a ton of them out there, whether they be dark and gritty, whether they be light and colorful,
or somewhere in the middle.
Or somewhere in the middle. So today on the podcast, I have decided that we are going to talk about some of our favorite, least favorite, and some different types of reboots, or remakes, or reimaginings.
Or a combination of the words.
Or a combination of all of them, yes.
I think this could be rather fun.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing as though my Cthulhu's asleep and all my demon spawns are out pursuing their own leisurely activities for the day, I think we can spare quite a bit of time. We are allowed quite a bit of time to work on this.
I don't know if I should be concerned with that statement or not.
Let me ask you this: which part of that statement are you the most concerned about?
your evil minions being off their leashes.
Oh,
It's
out
not
for
even
their leisurely
October.
pursuit. Jay, evil works all year round. We never take days off. You know
Oh,
that.
yes, I do know the IRS works year round.
Hashtag tax season. Yeah, I'm not too far out of the loop to not know what tax season is.
Can't blame me there. So, so let's dive in to some of our. Let's dive into a couple remakes. So, I'll give you guys some background here. I bought a collection of movies a couple months back, and this collection of movies had probably about a dozen, so close to 10 to 12 horror movies in it. And from the beginning to end, it had some original properties and it had some remake properties. So while I was watching through some of those films this week, since I'm still stuck at home living on a couch because my knee, I decided, well, let's talk about remakes. Because in the list I've got The Shining, which has not exactly given it a reboot, but a sequel that kind of rewrites the movie and the book so that they like mesh together.
Oh, this is unusual. You're not talking about the TV miniseries, are you?
Oh no, I have the 1980 Stanley Kubrick Shining.
Oh, okay.
But the new film that came out, Doctor Sleep, which is only a couple months old, takes lore from both the 1980s film and the book of The Shining and kind of mixes it all together.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm. But alongside this collection, we've got Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, The Exorcist, and then you start getting into the 2007 remake of Friday the 13th. You get into the early, I want to say 2009, 2010-ish Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and movies of that nature, which there are so many reboots and reimaginings of some of these properties. It's hard to maintain where we're at. It's hard to figure out which movie's which is one of my just kind of why I wanted to do this podcast. It's also one of the biggest concerns with remakes because there's some movies that have literally been remade death.
Absolutely, I can agree with that.
Looking at you, A Star Is Born.
Ugh. Cringe.
I looked it up. There is like 5 or 6 remakes of this movie, not including stage representations.
Wait, there are stage representations of this?
Exactly my point.
Oh my goodness. Have you ever seen any of them? No, I must ask, only because now I'm morbidly curious.
Seen any of the original Stars Borns? No. I saw the new one. I was underwhelmed.
Okay, well, just to be fair, because I've never seen any of them, so...
Like the acting in it was good, but the story was just, it seems so long to tell a story that we kind of could see the ending coming as soon as it started.
Oh, right. Oh, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. But, you know, to her credit, because, you know, she's not technically an actress, Lady Gaga did do a very good job in that movie. I felt it was, what's the word that people use? Oscar bait? Is that what it's called?
Uh, I think it's close enough. I mean, I think that's probably the closest that we'll get to it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, like seriously, like all words to the sides. Um, but you know, I mean, probably Oscar baiting would probably be an interesting way to explain it.
Yeah. There was a lot of things in it where I'm like, I can definitely see them purposely doing it like this so they can get nominated.
Right.
But
And you,
and again, it's not a terrible movie. It's just underwhelming.
right.
You know, the way it was marketed, everyone made it sound like it was
It was
the
like B
second
movie,
coming of Citizen Kane.
when really probably not.
Yeah.
Or like second coming of another classic movie, The Godfather.
That's so that not to lose track on our reboots, but those are two movies right there that you could almost put into the category of should never be remade.
At least movies that you hope would never, ever, ever, ever be remade.
Agreed.
You know, but
Uh,
because of course it's Hollywood and originality in Hollywood seems to have died out.
that and corporate greed's a real thing. Not to sound preachy here, but it can be it can, factor in.
Oh, very easily. Very, very easily. So now that we've kind of went off on our little tangent here, where would you like to start first?
um, well, we knocked a few of these out of the way. Let's go into categories of movies that have been remade way too many times.
Okay. What did you have in mind? Since you wanted to lead in with this, I will let you pick first.
I'm gonna have to say movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay, that is a good one.
Yes. Whereas the original is a classic staple of horror movie, as a horror movie icon, basically, a staple to the genre. It's been redone and reanimated to death.
Okay, I'm gonna now. This is my turn to sound preachy, but you lose track of the lore.
Exactly.
Whereas
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
please.
I was gonna say where the original one with Mr. Toby Hooper, who had directed, it was supposed to be like a low budget. I don't even think there were any plans for there to be a sequel or anything to that nature.
Right.
Which I'm very okay with. Sometimes movies do not. Sometimes I don't think movies need to have sequels or reimaginings. Are they fun to do? Yeah, but in this case, I just did not find it necessary.
I would agree with you. And that's another thing about movies where where people will reboot them and then they will also sequel the reboots. So you look at movies like,
Actually, we can.
example, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They have what, 4, 5 sequels?
I think so. And then you have the reboot, which was done in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have all the sequels to the reboots that followed after.
Not only that, I'm pretty sure there was another separate reboot in the late 2010s, like 2012, 2013-ish.
There may have been. Unfortunately, I don't have my notes out in front of me at the moment, so I know I'm blind leading the blind here. But I'm surprised you kind of chose that one, because the one I was going to do was Halloween.
Yes. But what's interesting is Halloween has only been remade once, which is very surprising. But the lore of Halloween has gotten so confusing over the years, up until about 2 years ago.
When they decided to re-release when they decided to not re-release, but they decided to remake and release Halloween 2018, bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis and the original John Carpenter himself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And those movies were, I will say honestly, I liked it. I
thought it was absolutely fantastic.
So did I, and I know you're not a big Halloween person.
Halloween, yes. Horror movies, no.
Yeah, that was what I meant, excuse
me. Okay, so I was mistaken. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was only remade once, but it did get a prequel almost 40 years later, explaining the origins of the famous Leatherface.
Ah, I see.
And I don't believe it was well received. Mixed reviews.
Mixed reviews. That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm. So movies like, so now that I've got my facts straight, Texas Chainsaw Massacre has been sequeled and redone to death. Halloween has been sequeled to death, and then they said, okay, we've done too many sequels. And then you have Rob Zombie's imagining of Halloween, which also got a sequel.
Which, again, since we're talking about mixed reviews, those were welcome. Those had also mixed reviews.
Yes.
I didn't hate that. I honestly, there were some things to Rob Zombie's Halloween that I did not hate.
Right. I did a little bit of research on the two movies. Whereas the first one, it wasn't terrible. It was just a different take on the story.
Right.
And it was fairly decent.
Yeah.
And then you had the sequel, which was neither of those things.
Yeah, I agree.
Widely regarded by most as the one of the worst Halloween movies.
It was what we thought we wanted, but we didn't.
Exactly.
We did not need it.
And then John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis revamping the entire canon of the story, you could almost call it, with the sequel from, what was it, 2018?
It was in 2018, and the way that it was explained was it was being used as like it was almost being used as like a sequel to the original one that was done.
Yes, it was a direct sequel, as though anything between Halloween 1 and Halloween 2018 did not exist. No 2, no 3. I know 3 didn't have much to do with Michael Myers, but
hey, I know it still bore the name, and we'll discuss that at another time.
Yes, we will definitely discuss Halloween 3 at some point on this podcast.
I
The
would love to.
underrated gem that it is.
Thank you. Someone else that finally agrees with me.
It took some convincing, but I was convinced properly.
Very good. Let me guess. Was that your girlfriend's doing?
Yes. Yes, she was determined to make me watch Halloween 3 this past Halloween, and I was pleasantly surprised. No. I apologize if anyone hears any kind of moaning or whining. I have a small, furry, four-legged co-host who decides he wants to be part of the podcast, too. So I would like to informally introduce everyone to my furry sidekick, Bucky.
Well, hello, Bucky boy. Hello. Oh, you're just the cutest, aren't ya?
Yes.
I bet you are. Yeah, I bet
He
you
wants
are.
way too much attention when Dad is trying to record a podcast.
Oh, he's a child, Jay.
A very furry child who loves attention. But
And there is nothing wrong with that.
Speaking of attention, I want to give attention to a remake that fixed a lot of problems that the original movie had. Since we have talked about the sequel that fixed a lot of problems of movies that came before it.
Oh?
Yes, we talked about the Halloween 2018, which fixed a lot of problems that the other sequels had by just keeping it a straight, bare bones story. A sequel or a remake that fixed the original, I would have to say, is the movie Dredd, which is based off the comic book Judge Dredd.
I only say, because I don't think I remember watching this.
Okay. So, in the 1990s, late 80s, early 90s, the movie Judge Dredd was released. It starred Sylvester Stallone and Rob Schneider in the leading roles. 95. Wow. So, 95. It starred Sylvester Stallone as the titular Judge Dredd.
I'm trying to think about where the hell I was in 1980. Was it 85 or 95?
95.
I'm trying to think where the hell I was.
I was barely talking is where I was. I was quite young in 95. So.
Yes, you were rather young and innocent. Not that I would know that for a fact, of course.
Oh, have things changed?
Yes, how things have changed.
But Judge Dredd 1985 was a very campy, cheesy, overacted action movie starring Stallone. And in said movie, again, it's based off of a comic book. I want to say it's a British comic book, actually. The titular, the title character, Judge Dredd, never, ever, ever, ever took off his helmet.
Wow.
And so, 15 minutes into the movie, the first thing that they do is have Stallone take off the helmet so they can show Stallone's face.
Well, Stallone
poster.
Well, so that to be fair, and this actually reminds me of something I had heard about when they were looking for someone to be the monster. I believe it was Frankenstein's monster.
Okay.
And actually, this is going to have to do with Juan Bela Lugosi. He
Okay.
he had refused to play Frankenstein's monster um, because he would not have any lines in the movie,
Mhm.
and his face would be covered by the makeup. So the role instead was given to Mr. Boris Karloff.
Who made that role iconic?
Exactly. So just certain.
Small technical difficulties. We apologize. So,
Hello?
there she is.
I'm back. I'm sorry. I think one of the flying monkeys was tampering with my radio service again.
I'm
You know,
going to
it's
have to find a better way to communicate with you.
I'm aware. You know, it's forgive me, Jay. It's just so hard to have good to create good help these days.
But they you they break rule one of the comic book within 10 minutes of the film. They made the movie, I want to say it was rated PG-13. And it was, again, it was a very cheesy, campy uh, kind of film. And with Stallone's overacting,
Mm-hmm.
because as much as I love sorry, Sly Stallone, tongue twister, um, he can overact sometimes. There's a lot of his scenes where he's just yelling at the camera or he's yelling at whoever's in the scene.
I just liked it when he yelled at Rob Schneider.
Yes, he yells at Rob Schneider a couple times in the movie.
And this was before, Deuce Bigelow and The Hot Chick.
Ugh.
I know those are
Mo-
memories that even I'm not going to
Movies that should never be remade ever.
or only watch when drunk or stoned. Or both.
So, in the year 2012, 2013, I want
13.
to say, the movie Dread was released, starring Carl Urban. And Carl Urban's portrayal of Dread was a darker, grittier, more close to the source material kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
He never took the helmet off. I think there was one scene where you see the back of his head. He puts the helmet on, turns around, and that's it. You never see his face without the helmet. And whereas Stallone yelled and screamed at the camera in every scene that he had,
It was much more subtle.
Urban was low volume, growly, almost very Christian Bale-esque Batman kind
I
of
was just
voice.
thinking that.
Yes, a voice similar to that. So, and I apologize now. So the biggest quote from Judge Dredd is he says, "I am the law." So when Stallone says the role, he goes, "I am the law." And you're like, okay.
That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad.
And that was a little tame. He yells it much louder, whereas Carl Urban gets really close to the camera or the microphone in the scene. He goes, "I am the law." That's it. He has minimal dialogue in this movie and does nothing but just go around as this violent ass kicker that Judge Dredd should have been. And I guess I would come back to my original thought. I want to bring Dredd into the spotlight here because the critics said it was an okay movie, mixed reviews. Whereas the fans who did go see it loved it. They thought it was phenomenal.
Now, I would imagine. Go ahead.
Sorry. But a lot of people didn't go see it because they didn't understand what this movie was. They just see some dude in a helmet going around shooting people. They didn't understand that it was a famous comic book, that it was a gritty reboot to the original Judge Dredd. And so it did not get the box office reception that it wanted, and I don't think it ever got a sequel, despite fan outpour for a sequel.
Do you think it's better, though, that it did not get a sequel?
In this occasion, no. I believe that this movie deserved a sequel. I believe that it had so much room to grow and tell more stories of this character, but it only got the one.
Right. Well, it's actually kind of interesting that you bring up source material because you think about it, you already have like these books or comic books that get so detail oriented that even trying to bring them to screen is one thing, but trying to remake a screen adaptation of a novel or of a comic book, that's when I think you run into a lot of difficulty. So if you don't mind me using this for an example.
Go for it.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The original book, the original novel, which was written by Roald Dahl, I probably butchered that name so bad, which was filmed in 1971 or 1974 with Gene Wilder playing the eccentric Candyman, which in the mid to late 2000s, Tim Burton, the master of visual arts, that's what I would like to call him at least, remade the movie into I think it was called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Or was it called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
So you were close. 1971 was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, based off the 1964 novel Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which was remade in 2005.
Starring Johnny Depp as the candy maker.
Yes.
Boy, Jay, I tell you, once you've been to places I've been and seen the things I've seen, everything runs together.
I can sympathize.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about this for a moment, shall we?
Okay.
Have you ever read the book?
Yes. Yes, I have.
So have I. And already I can just say I loved the book. I loved it.
Oh, yeah. The book was fantastic.
The book, to me, had a perfect mixture of... It had, like, your lighthearted, family, funny elements, and it had, like, some of the more darker... tone to it.
Right.
The first movie, I think, did an okay job with the balance, and I think you already know where I'm going to go with this. That boat scene.
Ugh.
Whew. Whew. That was fun.
I don't know whose idea that was, but it terrified me as a child.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because I do not think that was in the book.
It definitely was not.
I think they were just trying to get their PG rating.
Well, they earned it with that one.
Yep, that tunnel scene earned that movie the PG rating. And then, but where the book kind of portrayed Charlie as, like a normal kid, but they didn't give him I don't feel like he had any faults, any flaws to him.
In the book, Charlie was very
Angelic,
whimsical.
almost.
Yeah. Very, very angelic. He was a do-good.
Can do no wrong. Yeah. Very do-good. In the original movie material, they portrayed him in the one scene where he was talking to his mom about trying to win the contest. He actually showed a little bit more of a selfish. He wants it so bad. He doesn't care about anybody else. He wants it because he feels like he deserves it more than anybody. And I kind of liked that the original movie did that. I kind of liked that the movie did that.
I would have to agree, because if you look at the remake, they make Charlie a very angelic, holier than thou kind of, or as you would call him, boring.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Character.
Boring. Where, at least in the original movie, it felt like a normal kid. Because, I think that's how a kid would react.
Yeah, he had his faults, but he was still a good kid at heart.
Exactly.
Whereas this Charlie was, Mother Teresa.
And I've met Mother Teresa, and that's a pretty steep comparison, my dear.
So.
And then, do we want to talk about the Candyman real quick and then move on? Because I feel like.
Because we could do this all day. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Very easily.
We may have to turn the remake reboot episode into parts 1 and 2.
I'm okay with that. I would actually be very okay with that.
We'll see how many more reboots we can talk about before the end of this podcast, and then we'll determine whether or not we have more to talk about. But let's talk about the eccentric Candyman himself, because.
Yes.
So I don't remember exactly how Wonka's portrayed in the book, because it's been a very long time since I read the book. But I do remember him being very smart and very
observant. I would say very observant. Absolutely.
It's a good comparison, yes. And he is eccentric and he is mysterious, but he's not. He's
not so
strange.
Shut off.
He's not weird, if that makes sense.
He has some odd behaviors about him.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel like he's a complete shut off from the world.
Yeah. He doesn't. He's not a madman.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. I remember the book fairly well.
Okay.
And when they made the 1971 movie and they cast Gene Wilder.
Okay.
Now, to me, I thought he definitely did a good job kind of bringing the version from the book to life. As I looked at him, I thought, you know what, this is kind of how I pictured Wonka to be. With some eccentricity, but was he human? Absolutely. Execrable quality. We didn't know much about backstory other than, he had a chocolate factory, and I was okay with that. I was okay just knowing that information about him. But if you remember in the original movie, he did end up losing his temper with Charlie and Grandpa Joe toward the end.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Uh-huh.
So, fun
There you go.
backstory to that. The actor playing Charlie was actually very good friends with Gene Wilder.
Oh, no kidding.
And yes, they grew very close during the filming of the movie. They became very close friends. He did not know that Gene Wilder was going to yell at him in that scene.
Oh my
So
god.
when Gene Wilder explodes at this poor teenager, the emotions in that scene are quite real. Because he did not tell poor unfortunate Charlie that he was about to get screamed at. Nor did the director. So
I like that very much, as a matter of fact. And I mean, I can talk all day about the original one because, yeah, even though the novel kind of set up like their characteristics for like your supporting cast, or like for the other kids that won, like they found their golden tickets, like they kind of brought like their own twist and personality to those characters. It kind of made you like it kind of made you dislike them a lot more.
right.
But if you look at the reboots in 2005, like I knew even less about these characters, but the way they kind of twisted, like for example, the girl Violet, like she was still obsessed with chewing gum, but they gave her a very uber competitive personality. Like always have to be first. I always have to be first place. I always have to be first place.
Right.
And the lady that played her mother, I don't know her name, but I've seen her in so many like TV shows in supporting roles that it's bothered me. And then another one, Mike TV. Instead of having him just obsessed with watching TV, they made him obsessed with like media, like playing video games and things like that, which I thought was kind of like nice additional twist.
It was a good
It was a good adaptation to the time, I guess.
right. I was going to use the word update, but adaptation is just as good.
Yeah, great work. But
and both Veruca Salts were just unbearable.
I
My
will
goodness.
I will say I did like the scene in the newer one where Veruca and Violet were talking and they looked at each other and the one said, "Let's be friends," and the other one said, "Best friends," and they like kind of did like these big cheesy smiles, and as soon as they like turned their faces straight, like their faces just dropped like serious. I'm like, oh my god, that is so being a girl. That's so being a teenage girl. Like I had to laugh about that. Like it was like a very subtle nod.
Right.
But can we talk? Can we talk about let's talk about Johnny Depp now, because we spent quite a bit of time talking about Gene Wilder. He was nothing like the novel that I remembered, which, you know, it is what it is what it is. In a way, he almost did not feel human. Like it was almost, they kind of took like the human element out of the character and made him like an almost eccentric robot.
I'm trying to keep my opinions about Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka like pushed down because I'll just start bursting into a rant about how much I disliked it. But
I have
yes,
Pop-Tarts, so go ahead.
he was terrible. He was a robotic alien child, basically. Like the Gene Wilder's
Portrayal.
Thank you. Gene Wilder's portrayal of Willy Wonka was a eccentric, you know, adults are lame kind of character. You know, like this is the kind of character that, you know, kids looked at and been like, I want to be like that when I grow up. I don't want to get old.
But Gene Wilder, like his Willy Wonka, but he knew he was getting older and he accepted that fact. He didn't try to like keep himself grounded so much into childhood, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does, because that's where I was going to go
Like
next.
he knew.
Whereas,
I'm sorry, I'm jumping
no
sharks here.
worries. No, the Curbside Podcast does not jump sharks. Not yet.
But I like Sharky. Do 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 do.
No.
Do 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 do.
I will find a new co-host, I swear. Anyway,
You
Johnny,
wouldn't dare.
You're right, the application process is too long. Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka is a literal man-child. It is I'm gonna be a child all of my life. It's what I think will if comparing the two. If you're a kid, Gene Wilder is, I'm going to be a cool adult when I grow up. And then Johnny Depp's is what you end up actually being like if you decide you never want to grow up. Because he was just a giant, I wouldn't even use the word preteen. He was almost a toddler, you know?
Not quite. Yeah. I would say, yeah, roughly like toddler to like that 5-6-year-old range.
Yeah. I compare it to I don't want to go to bed. I don't want to eat broccoli. I want candy. I only want candy kind of children. Whereas Gene Wilder's was more super grounded. Like, he was eccentric, but he wasn't just this giant child. He actually, you can believe that Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka owned a chocolate factory, whereas Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka, you're like, how is this guy so successful? And not only that, but they gave him very pointless, they gave him a very pointless backstory that I don't think was in the book.
No, his backstory was not part of the book. I mean, I feel like we could have done without it. We
definitely could have.
I mean, it would.
Because I think that was like one of the biggest factors of Gene Wilder is because you don't know anything about Willy Wonka. That's what makes him so interesting and so eccentric, that you don't know where he came from. You don't know how old he is.
Right. I wouldn't even dare to say, like, that makes him a little bit more special.
It does. I would agree with you 100%. As I've learned in wrestling, I'm starting to learn in writing as well. Less is definitely more.
Mm-hmm.
The less you show, the more people want to know. Whereas if you data dump a backstory that involves, loving chocolate and his dad being a dentist, which, as much as I hated the fact that they added the backstory, they couldn't have picked a better actor to play Willy Wonka's dad. As an evil dentist, they picked Sir Christopher Lee.
Freaking brilliant.
The late great icon that he was.
I know.
And still is.
I know. We needed more people like him.
Agreed.
That man had done so many things, and it's like, he took roles because he didn't have to. He did it because he wanted to. That's a rarity.
The man was a Shakespearean-trained actor, a
He
horror
played
movie icon,
absolutely.
and even had his own death metal album.
How many? And how? I don't even know how old he was when he had that album.
I would guess at least 70.
How many? Other than like maybe Ozzy Osbourne. Who else?
How many 70-year-olds do you know have death metal albums? I don't know. I don't know many at all.
Neither do I. But all right, I gotta step in here and kind of say this because I don't want it to sound like we're completely crapping all over Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. I mean, as I've said, when I said this earlier, Tim Burton is a visionary. He's a very visual director, and I will say, the new movie was absolutely gorgeous. Like the shooting, the colors, it was beautiful. I definitely, if they were to say like anything about like Willy Wonka or the Chocolate Factory, like anything like that, I hate to say like the first vision, like the first thing that pops in my head is the new one, just because of how much it stood out in my mind.
I can see where you're coming from with that. Mostly just because of the development of technology and being able to bring images like that. Example, there's one particular aspect where the reboot follows the book better than the original, and that is the famous. Oh, excuse me, I apologize. Famous Veruca Salt getting her comeuppance.
With the garbage chute.
Yes. In the book, it is squirrels with walnuts. And they test the walnuts, and then they test to see if she's bad, and they fail her, and they throw her down. Well, back in 1971, they didn't have the technology for squirrels to attack Veruca without getting actual squirrels to attack Veruca. And
so that's why they switched it to the geese that laid the golden eggs.
Yes. So, in 2005, when they had the technology to make CGI squirrels, they kept that scene closer, that's a better word, closer to the original, closer to the book than the original movie. So, a credit to Tim Burton to have that kind of technology and show scenes that couldn't be visualized back in 1971.
That's very true. That is very, very true.
Another example, in the original, they hit the big red button and the elevator starts going up, or the Wonkavator, I should say. And
the Wonkavator.
They go, well, this room is made of pure glass. We'll be cut to pieces. When clearly the Wonkavator looks like it has a metal frame. Whereas in the new story, and I believe it was even in the book, the Wonkavator was literally a complete glass box.
I think it was, yes.
So that line would have had more relevance in the new movie than the original, because it was literally a giant glass box.
Yes. Very true. Very nice observation, Jay.
Thank you. So.
Oh, woo. Now, I'm starting to get a sweet tooth now, and it hurts. But I got something that we can use to kind of wash the taste out of our mouth.
Oh?
What about reboots or remakes that take the original movie and replicate it shot by shot?
I know exactly what movie you're speaking of.
There's two, and it angers me.
So, there's part of me that likes the idea of the shot for shot.
Okay.
You know,
Why do you like?
because you think about it. You watch the original film. I'm not calling it any film yet. But you watch the original film, and let's say it's your favorite. Let's say it's your favorite of all time, and you love this movie, and then you hear that they're remaking it. There's going to be a point in the movie when you're like, I can't wait for this scene, and I can't wait for this scene. I can't wait for this to happen, or this scene to happen. And when you go see this shot-for-shot remake, you go, oh my gosh, there's the scene I want to see. There's the next scene. They have everything I loved in this movie still in it, and they didn't take anything away. That's where the concept of a shot-for-shot remake is a good idea. However, I have yet to see it be executed properly or to perfection. It normally serves just to show how much better the original was compared to the new story.
I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, in the same respect, a shot-for-shot remake or reboot to me feels completely lazy.
I can see where you're coming from with that.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm okay with like using some things from like in your remake or your reboot that may have worked with an original. Because, as we've said in Hollywood, like hardly anything's original anymore. So, but when you do, like, if you're going to do something, though, like shot for shot, you better get the best people you can on this.
Right.
Like, you get people that are going to fit those rules. You get directors or photographers or anybody that works on film. You get the best that have worked with, your genre, and that they know what they're doing.
Right.
And I'm actually going to say this. I actually saw this movie before I saw the original.
Oh boy.
And when I saw the original, I just cried. I cried bitterly. Cthulhu would not even come near me. Just because of how upset I was.
And what film was that?
1998 Psycho.
The in-color shot-for-shot remake starring Vince Vaughn.
Fucking Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates and Anne Heche as Marion Crane. Now, and then I think as the sister they had a not Jodie Foster. Was it Jodie Foster? No. It wasn't the original Silence of the Lambs actress. It was whoever starred in the second one.
I'm looking it up right now.
Thank God. Sorry guys, if it sounds like I have no clue what the hell I'm talking about, it's because I'm kind of working on I'm working mobilely today, so while I'm on the go, Jay has to be like my little research puppy. He's doing such a good job. Yes, he is. And if he's a good boy, I'll lift that curse off of him.
Wait, what?
What?
Oh, dear Lord. So, we have a cast of Vince Vaughn and I don't know how to say that last name. Heche. Heche. Anna Heche. Anna Heche is Marion Crane. Julianne Moore as Leela
That was who
Crane.
it was. Marion Moore. Julian Moore, yeah.
Yep. Yes, she was in the sequel to Silence of the Lambs.
Now, who played the boyfriend? Who played Sam?
Viggo Mortensen.
Never
Those of
heard
you,
of him.
people would know Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn as from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I see.
So
Number one. I mean, I get wanting to kind of branch out and try different roles, and I don't dislike Vince Vaughn. I really don't. Like I liked Dodgeball. Dodgeball is probably one of my favorite funny movies. But why? Why? And then, oh, don't even get me started because there's this one scene that they did not have in the original movie, and I don't even think was in the original book. Like, why?
I know which scene you're talking about, and I'm trying to keep the show PG, so I will not talk about it.
It just makes no sense.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Like, makes sense at all.
So.
None whatsoever.
So, where
And
Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I'm going to say, here's a comparison. Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Supporting Actress and Best Director.
Yes.
Whereas the 1998 remake was nominated and won in 3 categories at the Golden Raspberries. And ladies and gentlemen who don't know what the Golden Raspberries are, or the Razzies, it is an award for being the worst.
Mm-hmm.
This remake, the shot-for-shot in-color remake, won Worst Remake, Worst Director, and Worst Actress.
So it's just all kind of bad.
All kinds of bad. So. I can't even use words right now. Trying to verbalize how much of a disappointment that the remake was.
I know. Like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, I truthfully, I don't. And it angers me so much because I feel like if they may have made like a couple different casting choices, like I don't know who I would back in those times, like I don't know who I would have casted exactly, but I mean I understand like getting Anne Heche because she did look somewhat similar to how Marion Crane looked, you know, in that time frame. But Vince Vaughn, no, like if you remember how Norman Bates was, like he had like that innocence to him, but then you knew, but you also knew like something wasn't quite right. But like it wasn't like so far in the surface. Whereas with Vince Vaughn, like you automatically could tell like something was not right.
It was blatantly hit you over the head obvious.
Yes. And then not only that, all the dialogue, word for word.
It gives me a headache thinking about it.
I think I feel. Oh, but let's continue on with another one because seriously, I think I'm gonna have a brain aneurysm.
All right. So, trying to think.
Oh, there was another one,
Oh,
like almost a shot for shot, but this one kind of took things a little differently.
and that was?
One of my all-time favorites, the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Mmm.
Which
Huh?
I'm a nut for Rocky Horror. I love Rocky Horror. I'll be honest, the first time I saw the movie, I probably saw the original movie roughly 6, 7 years ago. I had rented it. Oh no, I didn't rent it. I bought it. Oh, brr. And like, I was so in love with it that
Well, who doesn't love Tim Curry?
exactly. The music was catchy. The just everything about it. It was just like a fun, good time.
Right.
I felt a little like sometimes you feel kind of dirty for watching it, but that was okay with me. I mean, hell. Um, you had Susan Sarandon, Barry Bostwick, of course Tim Curry, Patricia Quinn. Oh my God, and I'm blanking out on who played. Oh my God, I'm blanking out. I'm blanking out on who the butler was. Oh, Riff Raff. I'm blanking out on who Riff Raff was.
I don't remember who played Butler, but you are missing one very important character, Meatloaf.
I know. I was getting the Meatloaf. I honestly was getting a Mr. Meatloaf. And
So,
then in 2017 or 2018,
I'm looking it up
Fox
right now.
did a TV special called The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's do the time warp again. So naturally, yours truly was skeptical, and I was kind of right to be. Especially when I heard some of the casting choices, which, to be honest, some of them, I only knew who some of them were. Like, for example, I already knew who Laverne Cox was. I knew who Victoria Justice was. Yes, at one point I did watch Nickelodeon in my life. And I knew who Adam Lambert was. You know, being a watcher of American Idol at the time. Doesn't mean I liked it, but I watched it. Now, with that one, again, like, I know because like it was such an iconic thing, and they tried to upgrade it, like update it for your younger audiences, which sure, whatever. But it didn't feel like it had the same charm. Like when you saw the original Rocky Horror Picture Show, you knew what you were getting. You knew you were going to get like some sort of cheap, really bad entertainment. Like you should have felt like you were gonna watch something that you weren't supposed to watch. And I was very okay with that. Like that never bothered me. With this one, I don't know again if it was like because of like the new cameras, the new technology that was used. I didn't get that feeling. Like I didn't get like that cheap midnight movie feel. And in a way, it kind of broke my heart.
I can understand where you're coming from with that. See, I don't. Alright, I'm going to lose followers here, and I'm sorry. I have never seen the original all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces.
Okay.
and I have seen the remake all the way through. And I can agree with you. Like, the scenes that I've seen and the scenes that were in the remake, they didn't have the same feel or the same charm to them.
That's a good word. Charm is a very good word. Because you had Tim Curry, who, was playing Dr. Frankenfurter, and comparing him and Tim Curry and Laverne Cox to the same role, like, you give them the same dialogue verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just listen to, like, the way that they're speaking. And, like, Laverne Cox is a good actress. She's good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to take that away, but it almost felt too polished.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Which,
and
with the original, the charm was the fact that it was bad. It was supposed to be
yes,
bad.
it was so bad. It was like supposed to be like, that's so bad, it's amazing, and it worked. And I hate to say, and I know I'll probably end up having us lose followers, but in the movie, you're talking about sweet transvestites from transsexual Transylvania, and you're talking about, like, satanic mechanics. You're talking about, all this stuff, and, like, in the new one, it just, again, you didn't get that feel. Like, it almost didn't feel sincere in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and like I said, like, the way Tim Curry played Dr. Frankenfurter, I mean, again, it was a charm. It was just the charm and the appeal that he had to the character, and just like that slight off-putting, like that slight off-putting feel,
Right.
which I think would be like, with Laverne, like, yeah, Laverne did great, but it didn't have, like, that same feel. Like, you didn't feel as uncomfortable watching Laverne as you did with Tim Curry.
Right.
Now, I will say this. The one of my favorite songs from Rocky Horror, actually a couple of my favorites, science fiction double feature, The Time Warp, Hopatootie. I will say, like, the ones that they did for the music that they did for the new one, I actually liked the new music, I think, a little bit more than I did the original. And that's even me saying that I preferred Adam Lambert singing Hop Tootie over Meatloaf singing it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Meatloaf with the saxophone, I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome in itself. But I think, like, just giving it, like, that 1950s, almost greaser-like feel, that I think the song was kind of going for, because if you listen to the song, like, where he says, putting some hair oil, and now Buddy Holly was singing in his very last song, with your arms around your... Okay, I'm going to get lost in the music here, but, like, I felt like more of a connection with that than I did with Meatloaf. The Time Warp, again, I think because of, like, the way they sing the Time Warp, like, it had more of, like, a rock feel as opposed to, like, a music feel, like a musical.
Mm-hmm.
And then Patricia Quinn, if you remember, have you ever seen the opening for the original? Like, where you just have the pair of lips and they're singing?
I don't think I have.
Well, if you get the chance, go watch that on YouTube. Like I said, I think it was Patricia Quinn who sang it. She was the lady who played Magenta. And then in the new one, you had someone, I forget her name. I think her first name was Ivy something. But she was an usher for this movie theater, and she was singing science fiction. Like, right off the bat, like, not knowing who this is singing, and then you have, like, this visual of, oh, she's an usher, she's singing, so it makes sense for her to be
Right.
singing it 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 made sense for her to be singing that song.
I see where
And
you're
it,
coming from.
and it had like a softer, like a more, like I felt like it flowed better. Now,
I
again,
think
go ahead.
I was gonna say I think there's nothing wrong with updating music. It's when you try to update acting is where things get different.
Yeah, because
Because
um, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say music is a lot like I've heard tons of remasters that
Hmm.
are so much better than the originals because they could go in, they could clean the audio up, they could clean the voices up, and you can hear almost exactly what you can imagine the band wanted their song to sound like.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I can agree. Whereas with and again, like going back to talking about actors and actresses, for example, you had Susan Sarandon and Victoria Justice both played the character of Janet.
mhm,
As cheesy and as bad and over the top as Susan Sarandon was as Janet Weiss, I
mhm,
would I could watch her any day in that role more than more so than I could watch Victoria Justice.
right.
Because I've seen oh my god, uh, Victorious. I think that was the name of her show on Nickelodeon.
I think so.
Like I felt like when she was already branded as like this teen idol, so yeah, she was trying to kind of break out and do something different. Whereas I don't even
Mhm.
think Susan Sarandon was well known yet
I get what
by
you.
that time.
So, I do have to say, and this will probably be my last little contribution because we need to start wrapping this up, which definitely
Please.
means we will be getting a remake and reboot part two. Um,
Woohoo!
um, pun intended. I have to give the remake credit for having the Stones to cast an actual transvestite as the transvestite from Transsexual Transylvania.
Very true. I was getting to that part.
Um, you know, no one's ever going to overshadow Tim Curry and what he could do with that role. But um, I think she did definitely bring, uh,
She brought like she brought like something different. She brought like a
she,
sultriness. Like she brought
yeah,
like a more sultry, like a more sexy. But there wasn't like there wasn't like an uncomfortable undertone with it like you did have with Tim Curry. But
right.
that's why I said like she did do a great job on it.
Oh, definitely.
And
So,
like so like she did a good job at not giving Janet and Brad anything to worry about. Whereas in the original one, they had plenty to be worried about.
hmm.
So with that all that being said, it's just a jump to the left and a step to the right, and we'll be back next week.
Yes, we will return with the hopefully highly anticipated conclusion to the remakes and reboots parts 1 and 2. Next time, we're going to be talking about um, movies that aren't exactly reboots, but serve as better reboots than some movies. Um, and I'll explain more come next week. But we have more reboots to talk about, or more remakes, and more reimaginings to talk about. But thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week. Um, just appreciate all you guys for listening. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and we will see you guys next time.
See you guys next week. I gotta go find my Necronomicon. Bye.
Thank you for coming curbside with us.